Hey, good evening, everybody. Sorry it's so dark. I wanted to continue my critique of Dennis Prager's latest video on Prager U about Israel, anti-Semitism, and anti-Zionism. You can't hate Israel and claim to love Jews. And the first thing I want to mention, in addition to what we discussed in the previous video, and you should check out that video where I discussed the idea of Jewish peoplehood and what that means, and how peoplehood is strictly a religious concept in Judaism. It cannot be compared to how the words peoplehood and nationhood are used in other cultures and languages. But Dennis Prager starts off by saying that you can't say I hate Italy, but I love the Italian people. Now, first of all, if we're talking the Italian people in the diaspora in America, Italian Americans, and then we're talking about Mussolini. So I think it would be totally apropos to say I love my Little Italy Italian American friends, but I have nothing to do with Mussolini. But then he goes further to say you cannot say that I love the Jews and hate the state of Israel. But the state of Israel does not represent Jews. The state of Israel represents the Israeli people, of which there are maybe half of the Jewish people live in Israel, and many, many Jewish people are supportive of Israel, and many are not. And even you want to argue that it's the minority that are not. I think the majority, both in Israel and outside of Israel, are really indifferent and they're not really involved in this question. They're not really knowledgeable about it. They don't really have much of an opinion. And you know, it's unfair for either side to claim them as their own. I mean, just as much as, you know, I remember a conservative rabbi who was a rabbi in a Reform temple, and he had a sabbatical. He was a bacher still at the time. He's married now with children, and he had a sabbatical. He came to our Sameach, and he talked about the local Chabad rabbi, and he said, you know, he has to realize these people aren't Orthodox. They belong in the Reform temple. They're really mine. Whereas the Chabad rabbi is going to say, these are Jews, they don't belong in a heretical movement, they're really mine. And the fact of the matter is, the ones that don't go to shul, as much as we want to claim them, they don't belong to either of them. Meaning, the same thing in my community where I live. You know, I live in a small town where there are a lot of, for such a small town, there's a high percentage of Jews who are not really synagogue goers. And maybe they go to temple once a year, or Shani Yom Kippur or something like that, and they express their Jewish identity in other ways. And you know, we want to claim them for us in the Orthodox shul because we welcome everybody, and the conservative shul that's only open in the summer, and Shani Yom Kippur wants to claim them as theirs because they're not observant Orthodox. And the truth is, they don't belong to anybody. They're just people. But we want to claim them, right? So too, with this issue on the national level of Zionism, anti-Zionism, non-Zionism, the vast majority are none of the above. I mean, it's the same thing the atheists want to claim, that the majority of the people who are not part of any organized religion, they're really atheists, but they don't want to profess themselves as atheists. because they feel it's too arrogant or this or that. I've heard that being said, and you can't claim them. The atheists are those who are professed atheists. I mean, dvarim shebalev enim dvarim. That's a halachic maxim. The words in the heart are not words. We only know that which is professed, and we don't know anything else. So you can't go and claim that because a wide swath of non-affiliated Jews are not expressly anti-Zionist, that they are therefore pro-Zionist, and also because they're not expressly pro-Zionist, you can't claim that they're anti-Zionist or even non-Zionist, because non-Zionist is also a particular ideology. They are mostly just nothing. They're not. They're totally unaffiliated. But that's neither here nor there. But then they're also not really part of the Jewish identity. I would say most Jews who are really affiliated have some kind of opinion, one way or the other, about this issue. But the thing is, it's patently false, and it's unfair to go and say that the state of Israel represents Jews the way that Italy represents the Italian people. No, the state of Israel represents Israelis. And they always are saying, in Israel it's not an ethno-state. We have between 20 and 20. In fact, Prager says this in the video. I've heard, between 20 and 25% of the Israeli community are not Jews, but they're Israeli citizens. So then, how is this representing Jews? It doesn't. And it's also they're always saying that it's a democracy and it's the only democratic country in the Middle East. Well, it's highly undemocratic to go and claim people as being part of your community who are not and don't want to be. I didn't even get to vote as far as identifying as Jewish, as Israeli, and this and that. I don't want to. And if you're going to give me an opportunity to vote, I'm going to say I don't want anything to do with the state of Israel. And there are a lot of Jews who are going to say the same thing, and a lot of Jews who come from Israel and who suffered there in such the horrible conditions that there are there. I know one of my rebbeim spent 17 years in Eretz Yisrael, and he said it was the biggest mistake he made in his life. Ruined his life. He can't get a job. He could, and now he's. This is a man who's a great scholar, and he's living in total anonymity, and poverty. Let's get to the point of what we were talking about. But I guess but this is let's stick to this subject, and we'll make another video about the other point. So there's nothing democratic, and as much as true democracy, because democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. It's not, democracy is not necessarily a value to just go after the demographics and try to get a majority mobocracy rule. But that being said, not even giving the diaspora Jew the opportunity to vote is, I would say, a highly undemocratic venture. So let's go back to what we were saying. As far as this other question. Is that no? You're not. You cannot compare. You can compare Italy to the Italians, and France to the French, and Germany to the Germans, and Israel to the Israelis, not to the Jews. That's my point. You know. And I'm an American, and that's it. So that's the next part of this video that I want to critique. Alright, I'm going to end this video here and then go on to make another video about another point that that Mr. Prager said, and my critique of it. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later.